Hello, everyone. Welcome to Time to Come Alive. My name is Valerie. I am your executive coach. I'm also your host today. And this is one of my favorite things to do. Every week, I have the opportunity to meet and have a conversation so that we can be even more conscious, more connected, and more creative by exposing you to new information, a way of life, perhaps a transformation that's taken place or in progress. And I'm going to introduce my very special guest and guests, I should say, plural, in just a few moments. Before, though, if you are on social media, please feel free to share that you're listening to Time to Come Alive. That way your friends, your family, the people in your circle could also have this conversation with you, especially after we log off. And of course, you feel free to share it on your social media afterwards, too, if you're watching the recording. Now, before we begin, I like to always begin by preparing us to listen to our conversation today. And it's a very special one. A wonderful friend, like I said, a couple of guests that will. For the moment now, just I want you to sit comfortably or wherever you're standing to make sure that you're centered and focused. Just start with a few deep breaths just to get, again, centered, grounded. And I'd like for you, if you're comfortable, to close your eyes or just soften your gaze. Good, just a few deep breaths. And as you do that, I want you to think of a way to acknowledge the divinity around you. Now, this mindfulness exercise comes from the Chopra Center, and I think is so appropriate for our conversation today. Just really acknowledge the divinity around you, within you, around you physically. If your spiritual faith or your beliefs guide you to a higher power, consider that. It's the energy in the earth. Acknowledge that. Or perhaps it's even your higher self. Just acknowledge the existence of that divinity. As you continue to breathe deeply, I'm going to start by offering our gratitude. What's something small that you might be thankful for today? Might be you have a chair to sit on, water to drink. What about something bigger? Perhaps you have a job to go to, or you have a child in your arms, or your health. As you're considering the things that you're grateful for, now we move into acceptance. And as you're really considering this, think about where you might be experiencing resistance in your life. How might that situation really be for your highest good? We're acknowledging the divinity of everything and the divinity that's working with us, through us. Perhaps there's something to be learned. What might that be? I'm going to move now into setting our intentions for the time ahead, day ahead. What guidance do you need? What visions do you have for who you are and who you want to be? What support might be important for you at this time? Now what's left to do is surrender. Surrender so that whatever you're requesting, whatever you're intending, whatever you're grateful for, whatever you're accepting, comes to fruition. That or something better. That or something better. And acknowledge any guidance that you get will be the right guidance for you. All right. So with that said, just take another deep breath and you may refocus your gaze. Okay, so I want to first start off by introducing this old friend of mine. Her name is Mariam Alam. Mariam, I think you and I met, it's probably been over a year now. I met Mariam through another mutual friend of ours. And I remember our first meeting, there were just so many sparks flying. We had so many ideas. And I don't know how in such a short period of time, I feel like we just connected so well. So much so that I was sharing with Mariam at the time and our friend about masterminding and about, bringing groups together to accomplish greater goals. And she was like, we should do it. Sure. So actually with her prompting and her enthusiasm, we began a mastermind, a small group of us who connected every month, I want to say for just shy of a year, and talked about our goals, our professional goals, our challenges, and really one another. And an honorary member of our mastermind is her daughter, Sophia, who's also involved. She did not want to be left behind. And she's been a part of all of our sessions since then. So I know she's soaking it in. Anyway, I just want to welcome you, Mariam, and I'm so grateful that we have this conversation today.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you for having me here.
Yay! So first of all, let's just start off with what makes you so enthusiastic and so curious that you wanted to get all that group of people together to share ideas and goals?
I feel that every single person is unique, and they have great ideas. And when people come together, when we all come together and when we have these groups and we come together and share ideas, there's something great that comes from that. Sometimes it's hard to, when we have an idea and we know how to work on this specific project or the specific idea that I have, and I can do it in a perfect way, and I just want to do it by myself. But I've learned that it is best to have other and to form a team, to have support basically. And with that, that idea is actually, it comes to fruition in a much beautiful and a better way.
That is so true. And I think in our group, what made it also so special is, well, you're from Pakistan. Our other friend, Faryal, from Bangladesh. Then the other friend, Aisha, she's also from Pakistan. And then recently we have Eva, my sister-in-law, from Spain. We have Sarah, I believe Sarah's from India. So we had a very, very eclectic group of people.
Right.
And so I'm curious about since we began these conversations, what have you gotten out of it? Obviously, you're the life force in starting the group. So I'm curious about what you got out of it.
There's always, after every meeting that we had together, there was a feeling of I felt happy. I felt like we have ideas, but when we get together and we talk about them and then we take action. So we always talked about things we wanted to do, accomplish, and then we worked on them for that month, right? And then we got together and then we talked about, okay, how much did we get done? And so it's the accountability, I would say, when we know, I had, knowing that we're going to be getting together again in a month, and we have to talk about, what my goal was and what I wanted to accomplish. So it really motivated me to work on that goal that we set when we were together.
And you were so much better, because I remember scrambling. I'm like, oh man, we're meeting tomorrow. What was So I'd have to scroll through our messages to find out, what was the goal I said?
Yeah, and I remember there were many times where I didn't, meet that goal, but I worked toward it, and that's all it was.
I do
So,
remember there's one thing you and I talked about that we still have pending. You were going to tell me, you were going to give me some kind of, I think it was some tablet or something because of your dentistry, your background in
disclosing tablet, yes.
Yes. Yes. So where are we with that? No, I should say ever since you moved to Houston, Texas, it's made it a little bit more difficult to keep the same energy and the same
That's true.
behind the group. So I so appreciate.
Yeah.
The other thing I really admire about you, Mariam, is that thirst for learning that you have. Is you're one of the earliest supporters of this particular program of Time to Come Alive, and always so generous in your participation. I'm curious about what had you actually start participating in this program.
Well, that first meeting that we had, right? And that chemistry we had together. And, we were talking, and, when we talked about the masterminding and getting together and all of that. And, it's, we all were, we meet, you could go to a room and, or party or somewhere where there's like a whole bunch of people, but then you click with some people, you have that chemistry with them, that understanding with them. And I feel like I had that at our meeting at Shahi Noor's place. And I enjoyed our conversation. I felt like it was beneficial. It was, because there are different types of conversations that we have with others, and our conversation, I just it was beneficial to both of us, and there you go.
You're down. There we go.
And so I enjoyed that, and I wanted to be part of the sessions, and I wanted to listen, and I benefited from them. The guests that you had, also, they bring their own, their stories, their journeys,
Mm-hmm.
and what they went through, and so I enjoyed all of that. And I
I so
benefit from it.
appreciate that. I really, really appreciate that about you. And I think too, the fact that we're all come from different places, we had different mentalities. You shared quite a bit in the programs that you started in, participated. I know I pulled a lot of things out of you. I would always ask you, Mariam, what do you think about that? Generous. And one of the reasons that I wanted to have you as a guest is because I felt that you had so much to offer, and you're so, like I said, generous about your wisdom.
Is this going to be all about me and how wonderful I am?
We definitely could make it so.
Is that why?
Yes. But you said something, and the reason I'm pointing to this, because you are wonderful, but also pointing to it, you shared with me once, because Ramadan was coming up, and so for people who are not familiar with Ramadan, I think I'll put a little bit in the description, but there's a period of 30 days in Islam where there's a moment of fasting, prayer, there's community, there's service, and people that observe Islam have the opportunity to really reflect on oneself. And you shared with me, because Ramadan just happened recently, but you shared with me that a few Ramadans ago that you had a very specific intention. And I remember feeling that was so fascinating. I'd never quite, I always hear about Ramadan being a period of fasting. I think that's what most of us get to know, those of us who are familiar with it. And then obviously, giving to those who have less, and family. I never quite heard what you shared from other people about what you intended and what you reflected. So can you share with us a little bit about how you leverage, I hate to say that word, but how do you use the time of Ramadan to set an intention for yourself?
So Ramadan, people know Ramadan as the month of fasting. but it really is, it is a month of fasting, yes. It's month of Quran was revealed in Ramadan.
Mm.
So it is a month of, getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, our maker. So yes, before Ramadan starts, I always, I make a list of what I want to achieve in Ramadan, and then the goal is to continue with those habits, after Ramadan also. So it is, it's a month of introspection. It's, looking at, I always look at the year ahead, from Ramadan, the past Ramadan, and I think about, um, what worked for me, what didn't, and what do I need to basically change, or what are the habits that I want to get rid of, what are the habits that I want to have part of my life, to be close to my creator, to be close to my maker. Because I believe that, when we strive, and the month of Ramadan is all about knowing and getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When I say Allah, it means God. It's getting close to my maker. So that's usually what I keep, what my goal is. And then I'll make a list of prayers, du'as, of the
What
things
was
that
on
I
your
want.
list this Ramadan?
This Ramadan, in the past 2 Ramadan, there was a Ramadan where I prayed for, I remember my sister telling me, and this is when I was not married. She said, do you pray for yourself? Like, do you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to, to help you find this, your future husband? And I said, I pray for other things, but I never prayed for a husband, And so that Ramadan, I prayed for a husband, and alhamdulillah, thank God, I got married after that. And then I prayed for a child.
Back up. I don't want anybody to miss this. Okay, so you generally spent Ramadan, obviously, in prayer, because that's part of it. Prayers you had before were about what? Until this one.
Oh, prayers. My prayers are, they have all, and they still are, most of my prayers are about, I always, I have this, prayer, most of my prayers, almost all of my prayers are about asking Allah, asking my creator, my maker, to make me a better person, to make me the person that I want to be. I want to be close to him. And I believe that when I am close to him, when I love him, and by loving him, the way to learn more about my creator, my maker, and to love him, it's through Quran. And Ramadan is the month of Quran, and it's to get to understand his book, to understand Quran, and to not just to understand it, but also to have, for him to give me the ability to act upon it, and not just learn, but also to change the way of my life, to apply what I learned from the Quran. So most of my prayers are getting close to him, because it's all like, when we're close to our maker, in Islam, I mean, as a Muslim, this is what I believe, when I'm close to him, I know that what he asks me to do will be best for his creation, for myself, for my family. And, it's the best thing, So, and whatever, and other things, I truly believe, and this is actually one of the pillar of faith of Islam, is that, what we call qadr, it's, he knows best, and whatever happens to me in my life, that's been written for me. I mean, of course, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to work hard. I work hard. I do what I need to do. But at the end, it's what he wills, what Allah, what the maker wills. And So I believe that whatever happens in my life is going to be best, because that's what his plans are, and his plans are the best, and I trust in him. So, and I know that, and I trust in him, and I know that he will take care of everything. All I need to focus on to be close to him. So that's what most of my prayers are, usually asking him that I want to be on that guided path. I want to learn the Deen of Islam. I want to learn the Quran. I want to be close to him. But yes, so I never really had this, because I just leave everything to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yeah, so then after that I made what we say, dua. I made a prayer, and I asked him, and I got married.
What exactly did you ask for?
I asked for a husband who was somebody that also loved Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that was also working on being a good person for others and for himself. And what else? I wanted to go to Umrah also, to Saudi Arabia, where Mecca and Medina is. I wanted to go there, and I've asked for that, and I wanted to do that after I got married. And Alhamdulillah, thank God that we actually went for Umrah after we got married.
Wow.
Yes. So, Alhamdulillah. Yes. So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think is really poignant. It's important to note that in all practices, right, all different religious and specific practices, that the idea of prayer is an opportunity to honor, right, to honor our faith, to get closer to our divinity, and then also it's an opportunity to live out that best life, right, our destiny in such a way. But you, like you said very well, that yes, there's a plan, there's a path, but we all have free will, whether or not we choose to follow it. And it's
right.
For you found an opportunity, you found a path that perhaps it wasn't quite as clear. Sister pointed out, hey, we're not actually engaging in conversation with
right.
this case, to actually follow the path that you want to go on next, or so that you can co-create. And I think it's almost like you're co-creating, and being able to consciously acknowledge this is a will, if it's part of the will, that you now are ready to accept it. So I think that's really beautiful, because we have, I think, an opportunity to co-create, that we do have responsibility to communicate. We're grateful when we are needing, and we have an intention, and if we have the opportunity to have that supported, and our Creator will do that for us. I know that I want to back up, because you did mention, I think to me, and it may have been a while back, but you also mentioned to me there was something about stuff that you wanted more clarity on, and I don't know if it was specific to being married, or perhaps it was something before, but you mentioned prayer, you also wanted to have a better perception of yourself. Can you tell us more about that?
So again, that goes back to, when we know our Creator, we learn about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes back to knowing the Creator. And just one thing, I don't want to forget, this is something, just now what we were talking about, prayers, right? In Islam, there's saying of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that prayers are one thing. I mean, so there is that, what's written for us, we believe in that. But prayers, when we make a prayer, that's something that can actually change the destination. What's been written, that can be changed when we make a prayer. So it's a so that's I just thought of that, so I wanted to mention it. So now, no, it goes back to the fact, I believe that when we know about our Creator, it helps us to know ourselves, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, and I think one of the things that you mentioned to me, and if I'm mistaken, about praying for beauty, that there's something about your life and yourself that you also prayed for. You remember this? No? Okay. That's all right.
I know we were talking about so there it's difficult. Okay, so we have these prayers. You can also call them like declarations, right?
Mhm.
So I know we talked about so as a Muslim, right, we before we enter the bathroom we say the prayer, or you can say declare. It's not a prayer like where you're raising your hand and asking for prayer, but it's a declaration. You say the words, so we have these prayer words, you can say, before we enter the bathroom and after leaving the bathroom, before we drink milk, before we drink water, before when we're looking in the mirror, when we're changing our clothes, and they're just. And so I know we were talking about the prayer for the mirror when we are looking at ourselves in the mirror. There's the prayer is that, oh Allah, oh my maker, oh my creator, the way you have beautified me, the way you have made me so beautiful, make my character as beautiful as I am, so I know we were talking about that, so maybe that's what you were thinking about.
Yes.
Yeah, so and that so that's one of them. And then um, all these other declarations slash prayers we have, um, that we say before we do anything.
I think Sophia obviously has something to share. Sophia, you agree with that? Are you making declarations too?
She does. We make one in the morning, right? What do we say?
Really? What's her declaration in the morning?
Alhamdulillah alladhi. So we in the morning when we wake up, we say Alhamdulillah alladhi. So we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We thank our maker, creator, for giving us another day, a beautiful day, that
Yeah.
we were sleep, we say sleep is like sister of what do we say? So when we go into sleep, it's very possible that you could go in, people die in their sleep. They never wake up, it's their last, time. And so, so waking up, thanking Allah for that, another day, another opportunity, awakening, to be able to be up from that, from that sleep.
From the sleep, yeah. To have our eyes open on the other side, right? Once the sun rises.
Right.
I want to go back to what you shared. I think there's something really beautiful, and that's probably why it stuck with me, is that the declaration about having the beauty that you see. And it's almost, I think we take for granted the creation is not just our external surroundings, right? It's not just trees and oceans and mountains and roads and buildings. That's not the only thing that's created. Like we, literally human, like our flesh, this is creation. This is the manifestation of creation. I love that. Yeah, and I love that what you're pointing to is to thank Lord for creating me, and whatever that creation is that is as beautiful as my character. I just think that's really meaningful, because I can see how much of what we do in our society especially is focused on, we look in the mirror to see that, do we look good? Do I have anything in my teeth? Does my hair look right? Oh, I know this particular thing is not right, or the makeup, or or did I put the tie on straight? Like there's all sorts of things that we focus on. And I love the idea, and I gotta admit, I don't do this. I love the idea of the opportunity to be in front of a mirror to see a reflection of myself and actually thank God for it, or who He created, or who our spirit is, what the divine created as a manifestation of me, and also how I, as a human, and the character that I have, then gets to show up in the world, right? So we see our image reflection of our image in the mirror. But then that same image that we are thanking, or that we're grateful for, and that we acknowledge having been created by divine, gets to go out and be divine in other places. You know what
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that's just a really fantastic idea.
Yes, gratitude. And Allah says in the Quran that the more you thank me, you know, I give you more, you know.
Hmm.
And it's just such a, this is what I'm talking about. You know, our creator created us. So he knows what's best for us. Like if you look at, like for example, the sky, the moon, the sun, the stars, the day and the night changing, all of that, right? Allah says in the Quran, look at all these things, like these are signs for you, and they follow his command, like they follow what he tells them to do. And so because of that, they're in harmony, everything is going the way it needs to go. So I feel that when we do the same thing, he created us, and when we follow what he tells us to do, then we also fall in harmony. We get the contentment, the happiness, also because we are in that we're following his command, and because he created us, he knows what's best for us. Like in the Quran, he also said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that sometimes things happen in our life and we may think, oh, that was the worst thing, or that wasn't good at that time, but you may hate something, but that's actually good for you, and then later on we do learn, like, oh, this happens in our life, doesn't it? Like, I mean, I have lots of stories where something happened. I mean, my first job, I remember I really wanted to work with this professor, at his clinic, and it just didn't work out. And then I found another job, and then later he actually sold his practice and he came to work with us at that office where I moved. So things like that happen. And so that's actually was, at the time I didn't realize, oh, I didn't get that job, I really wanted this job. But the creator knows, what's best for you. So the other one worked because he was planning, I wasn't going to be there for too long, and he was coming right to where I was going to be. So, it's subhanallah.
There are always really mysterious ways to move forward in life. I want to point back to something you said about gratitude, that, I'm not Muslim. I grew up with Christian beliefs and a Christian tradition. But I have so many brothers and sisters, right, from different faiths, and that include you. And it's been such a wonderful opportunity to hear reflected the values and the character that kind of link us, right? They hold us all together. And one of the things that you just mentioned about gratitude, I feel, is something we do note, we mention. I think what you pointed to is that we get more of what we're grateful for. And that is actually a pretty strong habit. I will say during the holidays, during the Christmas holidays, right, for me and my family, we got together with my brother and sister-in-law and my parents, etc. And I remember my sister-in-law put out little goal sheets. She knows that I like to facilitate stuff. So she's like, Valerie, you want to do this? I'm like, of course I do. Such a nerd like that, but
sisters are smart.
She's like, why don't you keep the kids? It's a great way for me to babysit them. But there was one of the sheets that was gratitude, and it had words, like little starter words. I am, like, I am, I can, and I have. And what we ended up doing, we were sitting around, and this is with my 13, my 12, and my 9-year-old nieces. We sat around and we actually wrote out those sentences. I am, I'm grateful that I am smart. I'm grateful that I have a bed. I'm grateful I can, talk to my family. And we literally would just fill, I think there were 3 or 4 of each of them. And what I got from that experience was that there's so many ways in which one can be grateful, not just for what we have, which I think has been kind of the go-to, thank you for this job, or thank you for this client, or thank you for this, for this item that I own. But I also started to notice that, having those three different types of gratitude or things to be grateful for gave me a whole different level of awareness. I will say, so ever since that was in December, I actually did every day at the end of the day, I would send my boyfriend a little WhatsApp message with the three things, because I felt like I needed to be accountable for the gratitude I had. And I have to admit that I actually ended on the last day of Ramadan. It was a lot every day. Just since January, right? From January to May, essentially, I had this thing. And it just reminded me of how many elements of life we do have access to, how many things we are able to accomplish, and the things that I can, things, the character that helps me accomplish those things and be great. And I did notice it became easier, like trained my mind. If at the end of the day I could literally, sometimes I forgot, and I have to go, day before, I can, I have, boom, boom, boom. And it after a while, it just didn't take much effort. So I do want to mention that, because I think what you're pointing to is, we do get more of what we are grateful for. So I'm curious for you, so Ramadan just ended. Tell us about how the experience of Ramadan was for you this year.
So Ramadan was wonderful, thank God. And you asked me, and I didn't answer your question, but I talked about my previous prayers. So this Ramadan was all about thanking my creator, my maker, for what he has given me. I always asked him, this prayer, I asked him for a child, and I wanted a child. I would say, I want a child that I look at, and I look at the child, and that child makes me think of you and thank you when I look at that child. So this Ramadan was all about thanking him, because Maliha is, she is that child. Alhamdulillah. I look at her. Every time I look at her, I thank him. And I'm sure parents, all the parents who are listening to us, they know child. I mean, just everything from beginning to as they're growing, you see, it's just amazing. Like from when they're in the belly to, and then their growth, and then when they're born, every stage is just, you're just like, oh my God, like this is, you want to thank him. And it's a miracle, it really is, like in embryology, when we study, so cells could go, it's just amazing, like the whole process of how this all happens, because anything could go wrong, and but most of the time things go well, and children are born normal. And
she's like, yes to that.
So this Ramadan was about thanking him, and always, as always, it's more reflection upon, reflecting upon habits, behaviors. What can I do to change for better? What can I do so that I could be close to you more? That's what this Ramadan was about. Stop it.
What is the most? Because I imagine inherent in this time of reflection and prayer and maybe sacrifice is not the right word, but really like self-control, perhaps, right? That during this time, what has been, or what is the most challenging part of it for you?
The most challenging part in Ramadan, the most challenging part. Oh, I can't think of any. We wait. I mean, Ramadan is like our guest. We wait for it. We start getting ready like 3 months before Ramadan because it's so short. It's only a month, So making a list of like, what am I going to do? How am I going to use this time, and it just goes by so fast and then it's over. Let me see, what was um
Family as well, right? A time to be in community, probably more so than you would during the rest of the year. So what would be something that was challenging or
oh yeah, so I can say this. So that's a good point. Actually, it is. I mean, that's one thing that I need to work on. Is with Ramadan, I always looked at Ramadan like, it's time for me to be in solitude. I just want to be with Quran, and it's just to just worship. But in Islam, worship is not just reading the Quran and praying. Worship is everything. Like taking care of Sophia, that's worship. Going to work is worship. Preparing a meal for a family is worship. Everything is. If you have the intention that you're doing it for the sake of your Creator, that's all worship. And so this Ramadan, this was my first Ramadan with Mubarak, right? So
with your husband?
So in the past, with my husband. So in the past, Ramadan has been just my time to be with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. I was at the masjid, I was home working, and then just coming home and reading Quran and reflecting and doing all of that. But this Ramadan, of course, he's a different person, and he's coming from so his so the challenging, I mean, it wasn't a challenging, but it was something that I had to work on, is that in Ramadan, it's also important to be with your family, like your friends, and preparing meals and getting together. And so I had to be part of that this Ramadan. Mubarak wanted to do it, so of course,
Oh, you mean you were hosting the meals and
I did, yes. I mean, not every single day, but I did. And I usually don't do that. I like to do that outside of Ramadan because I feel like Ramadan is just, the time. I don't want to be in the kitchen in Ramadan, But, but this Ramadan, so that was not challenging, but challenge as in I had to change my ways a little bit, and it was a different Ramadan.
Oh, I totally get that. Yeah. I think
So
that you point to something that's pretty I don't know the right way, but is interesting because we are called during these occasions, whatever our spiritual or religious practices might be, there are times when there's expectation, right? The holiday time when there's family or friends coming. And I know that's something I struggle with personally. Family, we usually went out, we went to other people's homes, or we went out someplace else to a restaurant or whatever. We were not the family. I didn't grow up in a family that hosted a lot of events. And so it's not something that's always very comfortable for me, and a little stressful, to be honest, having people in my space and having to prepare stuff for them. I have friends who are so gifted at you are too.
I love to host. Yeah,
I know you've had us come over, and I've had your food, and I'm still waiting for
that biryani masala.
Mm-hmm, that biryani.
Actually, I brought you.
You give me the spices.
The spices, right?
It hasn't come out.
No, there's just something, and it could be that family, what you were saying about that your family didn't do that much, but there's just something about hosting, preparing food for people, and then when they, friends, family, and just when everybody gets together and have that meal, there's just something. I love it. I feel good about it.
Really?
But it's only Ramadan when I don't want. I'm just like, it's
and
my time.
And that's specifically the time that most people need to be.
Right. Iftar parties. Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was something different this Ramadan. Alhamdulillah.
Got it. And what about your daughter? So what is her experience of Ramadan now at this point in her life?
At this point, and I have to say, I totally forgot. This was also a challenge because, it's hard, because as waking up, we would have to wake up to eat, and she also wanted to wake up with us.
Okay, so
So
for the people who don't know, whoa,
really,
very active.
sorry.
So that's all right. For those that are not familiar with the process, if you will, of the time of Ramadan, can you kind of give us a timeline of?
So from dusk to dawn, right? So like this year, it was before 5 o'clock that we could. So we could eat between uh, 8:20 to 5 a.m. So we would have
20
like
p.m. to 5 a.m.
8 p.m. to 5 a.m. So we had our dinner, and then we had what we call it suhoor, that morning meal, before we started our fast. So I woke up at 4, or sometimes I wanted to wake up a little early to pray, whatnot, but it was difficult because Maliha also wanted to wake up with me, so that was also a challenge this Ramadan. But again, it's Ramadan is just, it's a beautiful month, and and like I said, it's in Islam, everything that we do is worship, right? So you think to yourself, okay, I'm taking care of her, and that's also worship too, and just wanting to to be to have this feelings and want to do worship to Allah. I'm sure that's Maliha, stop so what was your question? Did I answer your question? Oh, yes. So dusk to dawn. That was.
Yes. I think we have about 5 more minutes left in.
Malia. Malia is like, is this over yet? What's happening?
Sophia, what would you like to say? What would you like to say, Sophia?
You want to say something?
What do you want to say to us?
Can you say Assalamu alaikum? You don't want to say anything? No? Can you say I like it?
Yeah, she's like, no, not quite yet. I might be fascinated enough with my own image. That's precious. What? So Mariam, just in closing out here, just curious about what is, so now that you're in this space of life where you've been very devout, pray for her husband, you have, you pray for your daughter, you have your daughter. What elements in your life, and I know you mentioned a lot of your prayers are about being able to not only learn about the Quran, but also live by its principles. So I'm curious about what's next for you? Like when you think about your life and what you want to accomplish or the vision that you have for yourself.
Oh my God. I would love to, I'm just so thankful for, and not just me, if we all look at our lives, right, there's these blessings that we're given, and I want to be able to utilize my, the skills that I've been given to do something great to like better others' lives, I always think about, especially children, when it comes to, like do something for girls, and education, especially when I think about Pakistan and other countries where education is still, it's not available to everybody. And not only that, education is there, but it's not what it's supposed to be, to better education, to better the education system, and
All right. We clearly had some technical, we had some technical issues. We had some technical issues on this particular time to come alive. So thank you all so much. I know Mariam may be joining us again, maybe not. I'll reach out to her in just a moment to see if she will. And but what conversation? Oh, here she is. She's back. Mariam, are you there?
I'm here.
Awesome. Yes. So just to give you some context, here in the Dallas area, we had some storms on Sunday that downed power lines, and I found that one of the areas of that was affected was our connectivity. So that's one of
okay.
the internet went out. It wasn't because I was cutting off our conversation.
No, it's fine.
Anyhow, but you were sharing with us, and you were sharing with us in for the future, right? So what your rest of the vision is for this year, right? So what about
Sophia?
you,
Sophia. So yes. Yes. I know we're about to. I'm sorry, Valerie.
That's okay. No, this is fine. I think she.
So future. Okay. So yes, future. What I would just say.
I love this.
I was saying that what I would like to do is I really want to do something for children. When it comes to education, I want to better. So, like for example, I'm from Pakistan, and in Pakistan, education is still not available to all the children. And where it is available, it's not. It could be improved. It's still at a really basic level. So I really want to do something where I better the education system, not just for Pakistan, but wherever, but I'm going to start, of course, with Pakistan. And then also children, there are children, orphans, and just there's so much that could be done. And nowadays it's amazing, you get together with a group of people and you make goals and you work on it, and it's not hard, but it's just it needs to get done, so I would love to do something like
what
that.
Is it about education and children that makes you so passionate about it?
Well, I just love children. It's, I mean, education, especially, of course, it's it go again, when it's not that education is needed for somebody to reflect upon themselves, but it really it opens up paths. It opens up the intellect. It's just, and it gives you the ability to it opens up many doors,
What has it done for you? What has your education done for you, especially because you studied in Pakistan as well, right? So
yes, and I studied in Pakistan, right? And so also that's part of it, is when I look back at my experience and what I had for education there, so that's where it comes from, is looking back at those years that I spent there. I'm just like, oh man, poor children. This could be so much better, As in,
why? What happened? What was it about the experience?
I mean, I just feel that not. I mean, and of course, in Pakistan you have choice, of schools and different things. It's children are under so much stress. Yeah, you have second, third grader. I mean, it's a lot of, and it's a lot of you're just memorizing everything.
Mm.
It's that basic level. Like there's no, for example, it's a lot of it is memorizing things, and that's I don't think it needs to be that way. It's
What
not.
would you like to see change?
I would like, oh, there's so much. Um, there's so much, but so basically what I would like to do is I would like to do trainings for teachers and parents, and go over the levels, like, so this is, so to basically teach them, like, what does the research say, how what works best,
Mm.
and looking at recent research to apply that, the and to help children, to teach them, instead of just memorizing and being under so much stress. Oh, I have an exam. We would have exam once a year, and that was it. Like, that was your 100%. You either passed or failed your whole year. So more of, I would like to change the assessments, different things. So it's a lot. There's a lot to it.
So it sounds like for you, your experience of education for yourself and what you've observed is not really sufficient to support the development of children, right?
Right.
Perhaps intellectually, there might be some areas, right, like memorization skills. There's some.
And it's not that memorization skills are important. I'm not saying that that's not important. That's very important. But there needs to be more than just that.
Yeah. But why is that important to you? What is it about education that, I mean, of all the things that you could be interested in changing or impacting in your lifetime or in your world, what is
Right.
that particular thing?
I feel that a big part of it is that it does bring you back to, um, it
You
brings you
or
back to
you?
your,
Me or
it
you?
brings, I should say me, it bring, like, for example, my life, right? And education has not only improved my life, but also the biggest way it has improved my life is, to know my creator, to that I remember sitting in a biochemistry class, right? And the professor is like going over the material, and not just biochem, you look at biology, or not, you don't even have to study all of that, just looking the way our system works and everything. It's just so amazing. It's so, like, you're just like, oh, wow, like, that is, this didn't just come from nothing. It takes you back to, like, oh my goodness, like, I know there's a creator, there's a maker. This is so perfect. This didn't just come out of nothing. Behind its perfection, there is somebody perfect, and I want to know him. And really, for me, studying Islam, and all of that came from these, all, sitting in class and thinking, like, oh my God, I know there's a creator. I know that there's somebody behind this perfection, and I want to know him. And that's one of the biggest benefit that I would say, it has education has done for me. And
It sounds like then one of the things that you discovered, especially in studying science, which is so interesting, right? Studying science, that you really got an opportunity to explore in a deeper way what was created through spirit, right? Through God in this case, and appreciate that at a whole different level, at a molecular level, perhaps.
Right, at a molecular
appreciate the creation at a molecular level. And that it sounds like also for you, education has kind of been disassociated from that awe, from that from the greatness, right, of everything that there is in the world, whether that's in the science that we study or the history and cultures of people. But I can see that, yeah, education for education's sake, just to be more knowledgeable, may not fulfill the destiny of humanity. Right? Just knowledge for knowledge's sake, in other words. It sounds like when we really get present and we're conscious of what that provides for us in our relationships, what that provides for us in our relationship to the planet, what that provides for us in relation to religions, nationalities, etc., then education takes on a much deeper, much more profound meaning than
Absolutely.
facts, figures, and being able to solve problems. Oh my gosh, I mean, but it's probably a conversation for another day, because we can go down a whole different rabbit hole. I have a lot of educators in my family, including myself, and so I get and really hear your commitment to making sure that that is a better experience and much more a richer experience for children as well as for the teachers themselves.
Right.
But anyhow, Mariam, thank you so much for your time today. I so appreciate.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for this opportunity. This
Oh
was
my
fun.
God. Good. I'm glad. And I know Sophia got in on the show a little bit, so this is great. I can't wait for her to see herself. I don't know, 5-10 years from now. She's like, oh my gosh, Mom. This is awesome. So keep this in your vault.
Yeah.
Again, I would just want to thank everyone that participated in our session today. Thank you all so much for sharing this time with us. And you'll see the recording posted shortly, but if you're watching this recording, go ahead and share it with others so that you can also deepen your own conversations with your friends and family and see what takeaways you might have from my conversation with Mariam. And really looking forward to next week. We have actually I would call it, let's call it a fan favorite, if you will. The couple, Francis and Kathy Conrad, will be joining me. Francis, you may remember him, transformational travel coach. He and his wife are actually coming to the program next week on the 18th. And we're going to talk about how they support transformation in each other, the transformation of partnership. I think quite looked at, right? We talk about individual transformation, but how does one's transformation, how does that impact relationships, right? And how to support others' transformation. So I'm really interested to see.
That should be interesting. Oh.
Yeah, how that unfolds. But
cool.
Thank you again. And again, I'm sure that everybody that had an opportunity to listen also got so much from your own joy and your faith and what you had to share with us today.
Thank you, Valerie.
Absolutely. All right. Have a wonderful week.
You too. Bye.
Bye.